whiskey tasting experience at 5 o'clock, which is right inside these doors. So without any further ado, let's go check it out and see what the whiskey tasting experience looks like.
A little bit about the store. Everything in our store is extremely small batch premium alcohol from around the world. Wines over there, craft beers in the fridge, a whole section of oils, balsamics, and seasonings. You guys are here for the whiskey experience, so we're going to be focusing on this wall right here, as I prefer to call it, heaven. I am the biggest whiskey drinker in the store, so they give me the privilege of doing the lessons.
Awesome.
So, what is the definition of a whiskey? So, basically any type of grain that is turned into alcohol can be considered a whiskey.
Okay.
So, it started in the early 1300s. A whole bunch of Irish monks were trying to transport malted barley from one part of Ireland to another. They decided they needed to come up with a way to be able to preserve that barley.
Okay.
So they came up with the genius idea, let's soak it and then heat it up to dry it out. That should do the trick. Vapor started coming up, whiskey was born.
Awesome.
They actually called it Ishke Beata, which is Gaelic for water of life. Ishke, whiskey. That's where the name comes from.
That's awesome.
Almost 10 years later, Scotland got in on it. Said, look, Ireland may have started the idea. They didn't do it right. They're missing a main component in using peat moss as a heat source to add that smokiness. So they may have thought of the idea, but we're really the ones that invented whiskey. To show you what we're talking about, we're going to get rid of that E in whiskey and just call it whiskey that way. So what is the difference between whiskey with and without the E? Simply the origin.
Okay.
Scotland doesn't have an E. Canada doesn't have an E. Japan doesn't have an E. The United States, Mexico, Ireland, they all have an E. So it all just depends on where it comes from.
Awesome.
Funny story, Maker's Mark does not have an E. So it's not necessarily the United States. Each distillery gets to put however they want.
To complicate things even further.
Exactly. So, do you guys know how whiskey is made?
I know it's in, you make a mash, they put it in the barrel, they age it, and...
It actually starts in a still.
Okay.
Big round cylinder things. They put a whole bunch of grain and water in there. They heat it up, which shoots it up through a funnel and down into a tubing that goes into another container. That generally is somewhere between 70 and 95% alcohol.
Okay.
That is what they will pour into the barrel to age.
All right.
As it's aging, there's always these little slits in the barrel. Some of the fumes will come out of there. They call that the angel's share. So over time, the amount of alcohol will continue to decrease in the barrel. One of the reasons that older whiskeys are more expensive.
Okay.
Because they're not getting as much yield.
That makes sense.
So there are 5 main kinds of whiskey. There's Irish, there's Scotch, there's Bourbon, there's Rye, and there's blends. Those are the 5 main styles. There are a whole bunch of other subclasses as well. We're going to be focusing on 3 of them. The first 3, the Irish, the Scotch, and the Bourbons.
All right.
So, because the Irish started off making whiskey, sorry Scotland, not you, we're going to start off with an Irish whiskey.
All right.
Now, in order to be an Irish whiskey, there are 2 rules you have to follow. One of them is very blatantly obvious. It has to come from
Ireland?
Ireland.
Okay, I didn't want to sound too obvious, all right.
The second one, it has to be aged a minimum of 3 years.
Okay.
Those are the only requirements. Does it have to be malt?
No.
No. We actually have an Irish whiskey that is made out of corn.
Okay.
So it can be anything.
Interesting.
So, the Irish whiskeys that we have come out of the Tealing distillery. Tealing is owned by Jack and Stephen Tealing. They were brothers. Now their grandfather started off Cooley, which is one of the 3 main giants of Irish whiskey. The grandfather passed it down to his son, or their dad, who then passed it down to the 2 brothers, Jack and Stephen Tealing. One day they got a knock on the door from Beam Suntory. one of the biggest names in alcohol, period, saying, hey, we have a check for $85 million.
Wow.
We would like your building and your name. And they said, sure, you can have the building and the name. He said nothing about what's inside the building.
Right.
So they stripped the whole building, took it all into Dublin and built the Tealing distillery. It was the first distillery to be built in the city of Dublin in over 150 years.
Oh my goodness.
So the vast majority of Irish whiskeys are going to be malt based. So there are three main flavor profiles you'll get out of every Irish whiskey. The fact that it is aged in oak, it is going to have an oaky flavor. And the fact that the vast majority of them are made out of malt, it's also going to have a grain and a cereal flavor to it. The best way to describe cereal is like Lucky Charms without the marshmallows.
Right.
Now, they're all aged in different types of barrels as well, so you're going to get a little other subtle notes in there. The one that I'm going to have you taste is this Tealing Irish whiskey right here. It is a stout cask, as it says here. They actually take a barrel that aged rum, pour a bunch of stout beer into that barrel, age the beer in that, pour that out, and then put the malted barley in.
Holy smokes.
So, rum we know is very sweet because it's made out of sugar cane. Stouts are always very creamy. So you're going to get the oak, the grain, and the cereal, but you're also going to get a creamy note, and you're going to get a nice sweet, almost mapley note to go with other things. So now, the proper way to drink alcohol. You want to take a big inhale of the alcohol. You want to exhale it. You want to take a big inhale of the alcohol. You want to exhale it, and then as you're taking your third inhale, you're going to take a little sip. Your nose and your taste buds are 100% connected. So the first time you were just clearing your nasal passages. The second time you're inhaling it, you're starting to pick up the smell of the alcohol itself, which is then transferring it towards the tongue to get it ready to be able to pick up those different notes. And then on the third one, as you're inhaling it, you are just making sure that you pick up every little flavor. So, we're going to be doing that every time you guys drink. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, and sip.
Okay.
I will tell you, it also makes whiskey a lot easier to drink.
Awesome.
Now, malt is malted barley. Interesting about barley, anytime it gets wet, it expands and it opens up the flavor. So as the Scottish and Irish like to say, put a little bit of water into your whiskey to make it blossom. But you always want to try malt whiskeys two separate ways. You want to try it neat, and you want to try it with the water.
Okay.
Because there are some whiskeys you're going to find out you just prefer neat. What is the best way to drink alcohol?
Neat?
However you like it, don't let anyone ever tell you anything differently, period. I don't care how they think it's proper. Do it how you like it. That's why you always want to try it both ways.
Awesome.
So do me a favor, you guys. Don't drink all of this.
Okay.
Each of you inhale 3 times. On that third inhale, take a tiny little sip, but make sure you leave at least half in there.
Okay. Go ahead, Becky.
Oh man.
First sniff.
Exhale.
Yep. And then kind of breathe in as you go.
Not even a face for her first sip of whiskey. That is impressive. So, now that you tried it neat, let's make it blossom. Did you already try it?
Nope.
Okay. Then we'll make hers blossom.
Make hers blossom.
Now, if you do this in a glass, when you pour the water in, you actually see little swirls. That is the oils coming out of the whiskey.
The flavors are really coming through. Just right at the end. So you gotta let it, don't swallow right away, just kind of let it sit on the tongue just to touch.
Swish it around in their mouth. They call it chewing.
Chewing the
you want
whiskey.
to chew the whiskey so you can get it to hit every single part of the mouth, because every single part of the mouth is going to give you a completely different flavor.
The back of the tongue is a little bit different. So okay. He gave you a little splash there, just by comparison.
Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, and sip. oil's on the right, balsamic's on the left, and spices all on the right side there. Yeah, girls, take your time, sir.
How
Yeah,
does,
it's definitely a little bit different taste though.
do you like it better or the first?
I kind of prefer that last one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So she prefers it open, as most people do, but that's not always the best one.
It's so good either way. I'm gonna give it a 10. I'm gonna say 10, but it's the flavor profile is just subtly different at the end. I think just like maybe but I kind of like the bite, so I think I'm just a neat guy myself. So that's really good.
Okay. I know Scotland came second. We're gonna leave that for last.
Okay,
We're now gonna go down to bourbons.
the bourbon.
So, bourbons have 4 rules.
Okay,
Do you know any of the rules?
it's got to be aged. Aged
For how long? A minimum of
2 years.
2 years.
Minimum
That's
2
one.
years. That's a good guess. Okay. Oak barrel. Is it got to be an oak barrel?
It has to specifically be a charred virgin oak.
Charred
barrel.
virgin oak barrel.
Meaning
Okay.
they take a barrel, they pour some grain in it, they age it, they pour into the bottles. That is a bourbon. They then take that cask, they turn it back right side up, they put more alcohol into it, they age it, they pour it into the barrels. Not a bourbon. That is a whiskey.
Okay.
It has to be a virgin oak barrel specifically.
Okay.
So the fact that they're only allowed to use these barrels once, what do they do with the barrels? They have 2 options. We can scrap them, or we can bundle them up and sell them off to Scotland or Ireland or Mexico to be able to make all the other alcohols. A large majority of the tequilas, the aged tequilas, are aged in bourbon barrels.
Oh.
That's why they're a little bit sweeter.
Wow.
So we know that it has to be aged a minimum of 2 years in a charred virgin white oak barrel. Charred virgin oak barrel. Mainly use white oak, but it
Okay.
doesn't have to be.
Okay.
What are the other 2 rules? Where does it have to come from? Don't say Kentucky, that's wrong.
Bourbon.
It just specifically has to come out of the United
It's
States.
just an American drink, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If you talk to someone from Kentucky, they'll say it has to come
Or it
from
has to come from Kentucky.
Well,
Okay.
started in Kentucky, you did.
I was like, there's got to be more bourbon than Kentucky, so.
Yeah, about 90% of bourbon comes from Kentucky.
Okay.
That means about 10% does
All right,
not.
I was debating, but I didn't think Kentucky was right. So that I appreciate that. Nevada, there it is, Kentucky King. They're making bourbon in Nevada.
So, made in the United States for 2 years in a charred virgin oak barrel. What's the last rule? 100% malted barley.
Perfect.
In order to be a bourbon, at least 51% of it has to be made out of corn. So, at least 51% corn in the United States in a charred virgin oak barrel for a minimum of 2 years in order to be a bourbon.
Wow.
So now let's talk about the flavor profiles that we're going to get out of bourbons.
Okay.
The fact that it's aged in an oak barrel, once again, you're going to get oak.
Okay.
The fact that it's made out of corn. Corn is very, very sweet. It has a natural caramel flavor to it. And then, when you char an oak barrel, a chemical reaction happens which causes a chemical called vanillin. Guess what vanillin tastes like?
Vanilla.
Very good. So anytime you get a bourbon, it is going to taste like oak, caramel, and vanilla.
All right.
Now the first one we're going to have you try, the most redundant name in our store, American Bourbon Whiskey. This is a single barrel out of Madison, Wisconsin, aged with 2 single barrels from Kentucky for a total of 5 years.
Wow.
Twice that has won the award for the best tasting small batch bourbon on the market
Okay.
because of how smooth and sweet it is.
Holy smokes. All right.
Let's have you try this. Yes, out of Madison, Wisconsin, not Kentucky.
I can hear the comments. Here come the Kentucky Mafia. They're like, oh, no, they stole it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So inhale, exhale, and drink.
Yep.
Now this one, you don't have to worry about the water because it is corn based.
All right.
Okay.
And a good sample back in. This is her first bourbon, by the way. She's a trooper, really. I mean, honestly, like, never had a hard liquor, I don't think, ever.
How to describe the flavors though? It's like something that like aftertaste, like that kind of sting on the back of the tongue. But
Did you get any smoky flavor there?
there definitely is some smoke.
Okay, let me see what I can get into here. This is an award winner.
2013 and 2015.
Oh, it comes through.
Yeah, like that after, yeah.
It's got a sweetness to it.
So, the vast majority of Irish whiskey
And the O comes in.
is distilled 3 times.
3 times.
Bourbons are distilled twice.
Okay.
So it's going to be a bolder, fuller body, kind of like a light beer versus a full-bodied
It's
beer.
super smooth though. It just really goes
is.
down like butter.
Absolutely
I mean,
flavor forward, and then it just
There's
lights down.
there's no backbite to it. It just really just rolls right down.
That is where I get a bunch of black pepper, but I also get a lot of cinnamon in it. Do you guys taste any
Okay,
cinnamon?
I got the pepper undertones. I don't really eat a lot of cinnamon personally, but I so, did you get maybe that back of the tongue? That's the pepper, the
Yes,
pepper coming.
it's right there on the back end.
So I think you're picking up on that too. Awesome.
Taste the oak, the vanilla, and the caramel though.
It's like maybe a hint of that vanilla flavor. Yeah.
For me, the sweetness really came through right at the tip of the tongue, and then it kind of went to the spicy towards the back. But the whole thing was smooth. It really just all the way. So that's like butter, that one.
Now we're going to try one that is not smooth.
Okay.
So generally when you're drinking alcohol, there's one of 2 things that you're going to be looking for. Either you're going to be looking for it to be smooth, or you're going to be looking for something that is flavorful. You're not going to get both. What you just tried is extremely smooth. Now you're going to try something that is extremely flavorful.
All right.
The 2 bitch here, named after my 2 ex-wives. I mean, the 2 dogs of the owner of the distillery. Once again, it is from not Kentucky. This right here is a Northern Nevada bourbon. It is 50% alcohol compared to the 40%. This right here, the moment it hits the front of the tongue is extremely sweet. But this is going to start moving back, and as it hits about the middle of the tongue, it starts to get spicy. And as it sits on your tongue, it gets spicier and spicier and spicier. So you swallow it to get rid of the spice. It doesn't go away. It actually gets a little spicier as it sits after you swallow it.
Okay.
This is my favorite bourbon in the store.
All right, I like spicy, so we'll see. They do ship, so. Oh, thank you so much.
To most states.
To most states. Okay, Becky, give her a go.
Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, and sip.
We'll see if the spice comes through at the end for it.
We'll find out. Oh yeah, there's that.
Right at the end?
Spice right there. Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a go.
Even after you swallow, it's like, nope, I'm staying here.
Oh, you can smell the spice.
Oh yeah, it's still kind of
There's a lot of flavor undertones here.
Absolutely. I mean, the flavors just dance on your tongue.
Oh, it really comes through. The tip of the tongue is completely different than the finish. It really, and it's not that, I mean, I wouldn't say it's rough. It's definitely still got a smooth finish, but it's there's just so much going on there. Really, there's a lot going on. You're hitting a lot of flavor profile. The tip of the tongue, you really get it as soon as it touches your tongue. You get that flavor, and then just let it just nice. You want to finish it up, and then the spice hits right at the end. So that's a beautiful blend. Really a nice one. So that's your favorite, huh?
My favorite bourbon.
Bourbon. Okay.
What's my favorite thing in the store? Yes, all of it.
Oh, okay. This is awesome. This is like a.
Now we're going to talk about my heart and soul. Scotch.
The Scotch.
There's 2 rules you have to follow in order to be a Scotch. What are they?
It's got to be from Scotland.
Very good. I mean, it's very,
And
very
it's
good.
got to be...
Aged a minimum of
3 years.
The only difference between Scotch and Irish is where it's made.
All right.
So again, I was talking about them using peat moss as a heat source. Do all Scotch manufacturers use peat moss as a heat source?
Probably not.
Absolutely not. There are some that do not. I'll tell you, Glengoyne is a big one out of the Highland region. They are known for never using peat moss as a heat source. But when it comes to Scotch, there's 6 different regions of Scotland. The Speyside, the Highland, the Lowland, the Island, that looks like Islay. That is pronounced Isla. And that looks like Campbelltown. That is pronounced Campbellton.
Campbellton.
This is where Scotch originated. There are very, very few distilleries in the Campbellton region anymore. So I like to break it down in 3 different sections. You got your beginner Scotches, your Speysides and your Lowlands. You got your intermediate Scotches, your Highlands and your Campbelltons. And then you have your expert Scotches, your Islands and your Islas. Why do I break it down that way? Because of how much peat moss they use as a heat source. They actually take big clumps of peat moss out of the ground and use that to heat up their alcohol.
Awesome.
When it does, it gives it a natural earthy, smoky, almost like a burnt Band-Aid taste. And the reason I break it down that way is because that peat moss taste is very, very much an acquired taste. Do you remember the very first time you had a beer?
Oh yeah.
Did you think, that's amazing?
I thought it was pretty good.
Why the hell do people drink this? This is terrible.
Oh, I thought it was good.
It's the same thing with Scotch.
Of course, I was like 2, you know. So what are you gonna do?
There you go.
Anything they give you, it's great.
So, you taste a beer, you think it's terrible, so you continue to try beers for some stupid reason until you find the one that you can finally gag down.
Right.
And you continue to gag it down for a while, then all of a sudden you realize, actually, this is pretty good. What else is out there? So you start tasting all these other beers, you're like, wow, beer is actually a very, very good drink. But imagine your very first beer was a double IPA.
Oh.
You would never want to touch beer again.
No, Jake.
I could not stick my tongue to enough 9-volt batteries to get that sensation I got out of that IPA. The Isla region is the IPA of Scotch. Yes, you will be trying one of these.
Awesome.
So now,
okay, one.
but there are 3 main kinds of Scotch. There's single malt, there's blended malt, and there's blended Scotch.
Okay. Okay.
This one right here, single malt. Contrary to many people's belief, single malt does not mean top shelf. All it means is one distillery using 100% malted barley. That's all it means. It can be a trash building using 150 different trash barrels. As long as it comes from one building, it's 100% malted barley. It is a single malt.
Okay.
We then have a blended malt. It will usually say blended malt Scotch. More than one distillery using 100% malted barley.
Okay. Okay.
That can be single barrels from very reputable distilleries and be a better quality than a single malt. So the word blended gets a really bad rap for nothing. Why? Because when you take the word malt out, when it just says blended Scotch, 70% or more of the grain in it is a low-grade grain. To give you an idea what I'm talking about, like Johnny Walker Blue, 70% vodka with single malts put up on top of it to give it a Scotch flavor. Sorry guys,
Oh.
it's the truth. So is it a trash whiskey? No, if you want to spend $250 for a Scotch flavored vodka, by all means, please do. That's what you like. So, we're going to be starting off with this mixed bay blended malt Scotch whiskey.
Right.
The Speyside region. The reason it's called the Speyside region is because there's a river right here called the Spey River that all funnels in from the Arctic Ocean. A lot of people don't realize the vast majority of the flavor profile comes from the water source that is used.
For sure.
What do we know about the Arctic Ocean? What flavor does it have?
Ice?
It is very briny because it is an ocean.
Just kidding.
So anytime you have a Speyside, you can guarantee that it's going to have a briny flavor.
Ooh, okay.
But going back with the flavor profiles, once again you have oak, cereal and grain. You have oak, caramel, and vanilla. Scotch is going to have oak, earth, and smoke. The earth and smoke comes from the peat moss.
The smoky flavor.
So
Okay.
this blend right here is a blend of 4 single malts. It's Glenrothes, Glenfiddich, Balvenie, and Macallan.
Oh my goodness.
The youngest age statement of this is 10 years. The oldest age statement of it is 33 years.
Wow.
Knowing that, how old is this Scotch? You always have to go with the youngest age statement.
I was gonna say at
So
least 10 years.
This is a 10-year Scotch.
Okay.
If you notice, a lot of Scotch companies are starting to pull the age statement off of their bottles. Why? To save face, really. Because they're getting those 25-year barrels and they're starting to run low on them, so they have to find a way to be able to prolong it. So they'll take that 25 and they'll splash a couple of other years in there.
I see.
And they don't want to put the youngest age statement on there because it's deterring from what they are giving you.
Of course.
So,
Of
if
course.
you have a 150-year Scotch blended with a 5-year Scotch,
Yeah.
you have a 5-year Scotch. Even if it's just a splash, it is a 5-year Scotch.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and get rid of the age statement on these so people just know that it's a good quality.
I'll be.
So the age statement honestly doesn't mean a lot anymore unless it is a single barrel,
Okay.
because a lot of them, the single malts, they're putting barrels together to be able to prolong the life of those older Scotches.
Oh my goodness.
So, blended malt, not blended Scotch.
Blended malt. McSpicy, Becky.
Uh-oh.
Spicy.
Remember, I said smooth or flavorful. This is very smooth. The Space Side also, so it's considered a beginner Scotch
Okay.
because it's not overly smoky. Pretty good.
Scotch, thank you. What a cool place.
One for you.
Thank you so much.
Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale.
Go
Inhale,
for
a
it, Becky.
tiny little sip.
Oh my.
Right at the end,
Definitely
huh?
that's spicy.
Go ahead and go back in for the comparison. Because you seem to like it. A little splash. Better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that
There's a
little,
lot of
little
flavor
bit
out
better. Yum.
It's good. It's smooth. It's just smooth right at the end.
If you go into a Scotch bar, if they're not handing out one of these, they're not a very good Scotch one. They should be giving you this, because how much water should you have? However much you like. Don't tell me how much water I need.
It's true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I like it neat, I think, for me personally. But,
So now, we are going to be looking into a single malt.
All
So this
right.
time, we're going to go with flavor over smoothness.
oh, here comes the flavor. Single malt.
Steeler's Art, owned by Stuart Lang. He's better known as Hunter Lang in the Scotch industry.
Okay.
He is one of the best Scotch makers in the, I should say in the world, but you know, in Scotland, because Scotch is from Scotland.
Okay.
This is Fetter Cairn. It is a 10-year single malt. I want you to notice this batch is only 282 bottles.
Oh my goodness.
Extremely small batch.
It's a very
but you
small
do know
batch.
that it is a single barrel. That's why they're able to put the age statement on there.
Okay.
10 years is a really young Scotch, so if it's good, who cares? This right here, as it says, aged in a single refill hogshead. Refill hogshead is another way of saying a bourbon barrel. So this is one of the bourbon barrels that we shipped off to Scotland.
Scotland. Okay.
This is 54.4% alcohol.
Ooh.
It is not smooth. It is like getting kicked in the face.
54 horses.
But it is, I'll tell you.
How are we gonna round them all
The
up?
best way to describe the flavor of this is a bale of hay covered in honey and caught on fire.
Oh.
This is amazing. This is a Highland right here. So this is your intermediate Scotch. You thought that one was smoky? Wait until you try that.
This has got the flavors. Distiller's Art. Single malt and single cask. There you go, Becky. One for you. Thank you. Give her a go.
I have not, no.
I'm feeling impatient on this one. I really want to try it. It's testing my resolve. The little sip, he's going to give you a splash. A little more?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Scotch is made to be drank at 40% to get the fullest flavor. That's why anytime you see a bottle of Scotch, it's always a little above 40%. Give you the ability to add the water. Considering that's 54.4, you're going to be adding extra water to this one. So let's get it down to the 40%.
There you go.
Yeah, definitely up with that.
Yeah. So impatient.
A lot of flavors.
Smooth or flavorful?
Oh wow, it's
I feel like that combo. Oh yeah.
it's
flavorful,
more
yeah.
smoky.
Yeah,
For
quite a bit
sure.
smokier. But as smoky as that one is, wait until you try the next one.
Oh yeah. Now, ooh, I'm torn on between those two. I don't know. Maybe a little bit on that. I don't know if I'll go totally neat on that one. Maybe it might need.
The way I drink it,
Yeah.
I do what they like to call wash the glass. I'll put water in, swirl it around, dump it out.
Oh, okay.
The glass is now laced with enough water for how I like.
Just a touch. I was gonna say it does it not much, but just it almost maybe smooths it out just a
I
little,
like
just a
getting
little
kicked in
bit.
the face. I don't care about smooth. Give me flavor.
I agree.
So, now, Tragibus. This is another blended
Tragibus.
malt, not blended Scotch. This is a blend of 5 different Scotches. This is Lafroig, Ardbeg, Balmore, Caolila, and Port Ellen.
Wow.
Now, Port Ellen shut down in the mid-1980s.
Holy smokes.
They have been making malted barley for other distilleries since the mid-80s. They have just recently started making Scotch again, but they have yet to release anything. So if you find a bottle of Port Ellen, you're paying a very pretty penny for it because it is a dinosaur. It just doesn't exist yet. So, this one does have a small splash of it in there. So you're drinking a dinosaur here.
Awesome.
It is out of the Isla region. The best way to describe a flavor of this, drinking a campfire and a piece of candy together. Now, just going back a little bit on the Highlands. Like I said, the Speysides get their water from the Spey River. The Highlands get their water out of the lochs or the lakes. So it's going to be very crisp and very clean flavor. You're not going to get the brininess. Here, they get the water out of the Atlantic Ocean. So you're going to have brininess to it.
Thank you.
You can smell the smoke on that one. That one smells like a campfire, kind of like what my clothes smell like.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Thank you. Give her a go, Becky. Some of the oldest Scotch you can get your hands on. Mixed in there.
Straight up like burnt Band-Aid, huh?
Oh man.
You can really smell it.
Definitely get that
Really smoky.
campfire smell, taste. Oh yeah.
Oh wow, it's like it's like drinking fire almost. I mean, it really is a.
That right there is my style of Scotch.
It's really got a smoky undertone. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
oh my goodness. Wow. I don't know if I've ever had anything like that. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, that's just it's got its own.
Yes.
It's really got its own flavor. I mean, just unlike anything, really. It's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And I'll post it on the channel if that's okay with you.
Totally fine.
All right, thank you so much. All right, let's do the wrap right here. So that's going to be the whiskey tasting experience here at the Venetian. You got to get your tickets online ahead of time. As you can see, there was not a giant line of all these people in town. They don't know that you can come here and actually drink whiskey for free. So check it out. Take the time to go through the tournament or through the process to get in here and come see Bear, because he knows more about whiskey than almost anyone on the planet. We really got some awesome information there. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And as always, we'll see you very soon on the next review. Bye, everybody.